You know, it's really fun to have an ego as a writer. You know, you're alone in your room, you're making yourself laugh. It's gleeful, you know, you don't want it to end, but you enter into the other part that should be selfless and have to hand off to someone else, and that's actually when it starts getting good. It's scary at first. It's a little bit terrifying.
That's really just the job, is just being an audience and making sure they don't stray, and it's just being a collaborator. You're both after the same thing. You have your idea of what good is and what quality is.
We keep, you know, we take the work seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously, and just get on with it.
I think themes have to emerge from a story that is based in fact.
It begins and it ends with the writing. That if it's good, directing is easy. Directing can be easy, but directing can be really difficult if the writing's not right. So it's just that idea that it begins and ends with the writing.
So this is the first shot of this movie that I think we should all unashamedly try and make a great movie. And don't apologize. Let's just try and make a really, really, really fantastic movie. Great. So we'll just do this. Ready? Okay.
It's a mistake, I think, for a filmmaker to pursue themes. You know, this is a mistake. I think. I think themes have to emerge from a story that is based in fact, that is entertaining to an audience, and that hopefully has comedic and dramatic possibilities. The themes have to grow quite naturally from that. You know, it's sort of, I remember hearing about people that were songwriters that would think, oh, you know, I used to have to sit down and try and write a hit song, right? They wanted to write like a hit song, and they said that, they could never do it, right? And then if they were lucky enough to have a hit song, they just happened to be like sitting at breakfast one morning, buttering their toast, and something came into their mind, and they wrote it. I think this is a more organic way to work.
And for you, I mean, I know that you're the screenwriter as well as the director. At what point does Paul Thomas Anderson, the screenwriter, sort of have to yield towards the director who's got actors and physical locations? In other words, how much of the script ultimately were you faithful to?
Well, ideally, in a perfect world, there's it's like a baton handoff. That I can do. You know, it's really fun to have an ego as a writer. You know, you're alone in your room, you're making yourself laugh, you're by yourself, you're doing all that stuff, and it's gleeful. You know, you don't want it to end, but because you enter into the other part that should be selfless and have to hand off to someone else, and that's actually when it starts getting good. It's scary at first. It's a little bit terrifying, even as much as I would look forward to working with Daniel and would trust Daniel, you know. But that becomes his. Now he's got his job, and now we're in it together. Now you have a partner in crime. At its best, that's what it is. It's really like a partner in crime.
There's a few minor corrections that had to happen. And one thing that Daniel said that I think was great too is that I had him look at what we had done, because we all needed to collect ourselves after a week or whatever it had been to say it's not exactly what it should be. I'm not quite sure how to say exactly what it should be, so I have no good direction.
Wait, you said that to him?
Yeah,
well,
that was the understanding of what was going on.
You didn't have to say it.
And from my perspective, I'm looking at it thinking, well, the scene's not really written exactly right. So for starters, that needs to help as a stepping stone, because if there's a problem, it generally begins with the writing.
The one thing I always remember thinking initially when I was trying to make films, and you always felt like you got nervous that somebody else was right who was talking to you, you know, who maybe was in a position of power, like that their opinion somehow was right or better than yours, and somehow you didn't. could never stop to think, like, no, it's just different. You just think differently than I do, and that's okay, you know, but I'm not wrong. You know, you can get filled with such fear, and it's really easy to just get your heart broken and kind of sort of beaten. You're sort of attempting to make films. I mean, it's a miracle anytime any one of them gets made, you know? It's a miracle, and it's a miracle every time. I feel like it's a miracle every time a scene kind of gets done and through the birth canal and done. I mean, it's never any less of a miracle or any less difficult. There's just a kind of, there just should be no fear, you know? I think that's, just always remember kind of being pummeled by fear early on and feeling like, God, if I could have just got rid of that fear earlier, this might have been a little bit easier. Just don't give a fuck. That's kind of the best thing to do.
I think that we all feel these balances of power in our relationship, even if we're not aware of it, even if we don't think about it too much, you know, particularly between men and women. You know, this is what we struggle with in a day-to-day relationship, month to month, year to year. And it's very easy to dramatize, or it becomes very interesting dramatically to have situations like that. It's fertile for a story. That about 20 so years ago, I was taking a walk around my neighborhood. I think I just moved into this house that I bought. And I passed Portola Middle School, which is in Tarzana. And I saw, it was picture, it must have been October because it was picture day, and there was a blacktop full of kids, you know, all in line. And I saw this one kid nagging at this girl who worked for the company, clearly trying to get a date or get her phone number or something like that. And it was a terrific premise. You know, well, what would happen if he actually got the phone number, or what would happen if, against all her better judgment, she turned up at the date? You know, it was a kind of very classic screwball comedy idea. So that's one thing, and I'd had that kicking around for many years, and I would think about it from time to time, like, that's a really good idea for a movie. That I should not forget that one. So mixed in with really just taking a lot of things from my life, from my time, my childhood.
You know, family's just endless, juicy ammunition for great stories, you know. They're never going to let you down for good drama or good comedy.
Writing can happen pretty fast sometimes if it's going well, and then it's just an excuse, like you can say, I'm going to write now, you know, when really you're going down and locking the door to your room to research, to just to read, to steal time, to kind of fill up the tank on a period, you know, or something particular. You know, this film has very particular things that it's based on. So getting to know that as best as I could is time well spent. Probably time better spent than actually typing. Because that actual writing can happen very, very fast if you feel comfortable that you're kind of connected with that period and that time and those people. You've got a story that's perhaps half-baked, or kind of maybe a little more than half-baked, and suddenly something from research kind of comes along into your life that does connect to it. It's not completely random or out of the blue, and you think, my God, this is waiting for me to discover it. Here it is.
Did you have to rein him in at all? Did you have to say...
No.
Did you have to direct him at all?
Yeah.
In what way?
Just watching. Keeping an eye on how he was feeling, you know. That's really just the job, is just being an audience and making sure they don't stray, and watching.
Keeping them focused, or not focused, but what?
Well, it's just being a collaborator. You're both after the same thing. You have your idea of what good is, of what quality is, and it can be, after 10 or 15 takes of trying to get it right for many different reasons, it can become really easy to just lose the plot a little bit as an actor.
Or lose a lot of things, urgency, or lose a sense of energy, lose a
all
sense
of that.
of moment.
Does not make you a bad actor. It's just natural. Or what did you eat? Have you eaten enough lunch? You know, all right, okay, where are we in the day? It's never going to happen today. We're going to try it tomorrow. Yeah. That's the job, and it's just, you're looking out for someone's well-being there. That's really what you do.
He is, despite the movies, despite the directing success is at heart a writer. Yes?
As well as the other things. Yeah, he certainly is a writer.
But at
yes.
core, he's a writer.
Yes, I think so. Yes,
Don't
he
you?
is. Yes.
I think so,
I
yeah.
think he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he
that's
is.
the ultimate.
I like saying that best.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Because you like being a writer, or because it is what you enjoy the most, so therefore if that's how we define you, then so much the better.
Both of those things. And it goes back to what we talked about before. It begins and it ends with the writing. That if it's good, directing is easy. Directing can be easy. But directing can be really difficult if the writing's not right. So it's just that idea that it begins and ends with the writing. Yeah, and honestly, then it goes back to what we talked about before, is how much was I thinking of Daniel at the beginning? I mean, I must have been thinking about him a lot, secretly, because I think that's how I did a pretty good job writing. I thought, well, if I'm going to go to him, I better get my act straight. I better have this well written by the time I knock on his door.
I'd come up with this story that you come up with a story and you think that you're the first person that's ever come up with this story, and then you take 5 minutes and you think, well, this is Pygmalion, right? And so then I went back and I watched Pygmalion, and I never really liked it, the movie versions. They always kind of creeped me out. There was always some weird imbalance, and I was never that excited by that story. So I think I had this bizarre situation where I had a story that I wanted to tell that shared similarities with a story that I didn't really like very much. So I was trying to probably constantly, and I think Daniel didn't like it either. He was always saying, isn't it kind of creepy? I said, yeah, it's creepy. So we were always trying to find ways to manage that creepiness.
It's funny because someone was saying, you know, how do you get these performances? And I think that my first job is to be a really good writer to the actors, you know, to not describe it in the script. So many times you see so much description of what the character is supposed to be feeling and stuff in screenplays, and it's just a big mistake. It has to be done through dialogue and what they do. What are they going to do? Are they going to walk across the street? You know, then that's a character trait, you know. They're making that decision. And so the scripts that I write for them are very clean. They're sort of very clean of a lot of sort of flowery explanation of what they're supposed to be feeling. I think the actors really appreciate that. It lets them do their job. It enables them to just act, you know what I mean?
Well, you know, I think you know, for a film in this era, it's been well covered ground, you know, and a lot of songs have been used many different times. So you're trying to be honest to the period and honest to what might have been on the radio. You're also trying to uncover some songs perhaps that you've never heard before, but hopefully songs that can push the story along, or will work gently pushing you through it. Maybe a little bit of support, or maybe you want to be front and center and really kind of help the film achieve liftoff. So yeah, I have a running list of songs that I think might work. You sort of got the radio on all the time, sort of hungry for something to emerge that you've never heard of before. You can get the Billboard 100 year by year. You can get that list and print it out and sort of comb through it and see what was popular in a certain month, and try to tailor it that way. And if that, and luckily, that can be very lucky. You sort of imagine, I've got a scene, this is probably about May '73. What was on the radio? You know, this is radio and car culture particularly at that time. So you look for clues that way. But ultimately, you're just using a basic barometer of, does this feel right? Does it work in the scene? And is it helping to achieve forward momentum in the story? I mean, it kind of becomes that simple.
You dropped out of school because all you wanted to do was to learn how to make movies.
Yeah. That seems to me the only way to go, you know? I mean, film school was never an option. It seems to me to be a waste of time and a waste of money, in all honesty, really. You know, my film education really came from watching other movies, you know? And I think there's
there's a scary mentality, I think, in film schools. My small sort of dealing with them is something that's really terrifying. I walked into a film class and that was about screenwriting, and this guy, the opening line was, you know, if you're here to write Terminator 2, just leave now. And I thought, well, that's terrible. Could be a kid in the corner there that wants to write Terminator 2. That's his vision. That's his movie. That's what he likes. Let him do it, you know. Yeah. And the mentality at film schools is we'll start out with, you know, Potemkin. First day in class, here's Potemkin. You know, every kid in the class is going to just fall down. You know, what do you do? It's like, they should do it backwards, you know. Start with Terminator 2 and work backwards and sort of, and ease into this and sort of, you know, trace the heritage, you know, trace it back. Watch a Scorsese movie, which everyone sort of loves in the class and is very excited by, and trace back and go, okay, here's who he was riffing off of. Here's these patents that he has kind of built upon, you know, and study it that way.
The worst thing in the world, I only know the worst thing in the world, and what I know that what actors don't want is they don't want to have a lot of chit-chat or dialogue or like endless conversations when on the set or while you're trying to do something. Nobody wants it. The crew doesn't want it. The actors don't want it. I don't want to do it. So to avoid those things, you take time to do it privately with the script. Try to not over-talk it or overthink it. Leave some mystery to happen. And just create a scenario that is quiet, delicate, and productive. It's light. We we take the work seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously, and just get on with it. That's been the thing that I've seen that I respond to, the actors respond to, and everybody's happiest. Like those days when you know, if an actor says they want to discuss something, and you just get very nervous. Like, wait a minute. If we didn't even discussed it by now, we're in real trouble.
I mean, I don't remember it exactly, but I do know that feeling when you're done with something and just enough time has passed that you're clearly moving on to something else. And it's a great time because in some ways you get your energy back, you get your excitement back, and anything becomes possible. It's not, you've been working so long finishing a film, you're finishing something, and it's it can be depressing actually towards the end because it kind of is done and it's out, and there's a sadness that happens, and then you get to writing and there's just a world of possibilities. At any turn something could inspire you or get you excited again. And I remember at a certain point reading a great short story I believe it's called Bucket of Blood. John O'Hara wrote a great story about a fella that starts out, he wakes up in a hospital, and he comes to, and he's having this great conversation with a doctor. He's just had his appendix removed because his appendix is burst on this train, and he wakes up, he doesn't know where he was. And there's just this great conversation at the beginning of it between a doctor and this patient, this guy. And I started to transcribe. I just wrote it down in script form, thinking, oh, maybe this would be an adaptation or something. Or, as I've done before too, you sort of steal something if you're bored and you got nothing to do. You know, there's no better exercise than just write somebody else's words down to see how they look typed out, just to get you inspired again or to get it moving. And that's what I was doing with this John O'Hara thing. And by the look of it and the sound of it, it seemed to fit with some of these other things that I had lying around. So that character started to come more and more, and you just start finding pieces of them, and you hope that they start to talk to you, talk back at you in a weird kind of, it sounds hocus pocus, but it's like a weird kind of seance. You hope that you are not there at a certain point, that they're just doing the work for you. That's when it's at its best.
I try to avoid that moment of like sitting down and looking at a blank piece of paper ever. You know, that you have to put chips in something so you never get to that spot. And what I mean is the energy after I've finished shooting a film has led me. You have this false kind of energy. I've had it a few times now where you don't collapse at the end of it. You actually feel like I could do this again. And what it is you're stepping back into normal life, but you're still sort of firing on all these cylinders. And a couple times now, I've gotten up, gone
to the coffee maker, sat down, and really started to write what I felt I would want to make next, even as vague and bizarre or unclear as it was. It was a story of a man and a woman, a relationship, a this, a that, a this. So I had enough ideas on this where I felt like daydream and think about it and turn it over in your mind and write a little bit here and there, but never get to that spot where you've overwritten it or you haven't figured a few things out before you really jump in.
Hopefully, if I've ever had a theme in mind, I mean, usually that's just like the worst. You're kind of, then you're, then you feel yourself writing. And there's nothing worse than that feeling of kind of chasing after a theme. I mean, that's always like writing at its worst for me, The best things kind of become something and you're just happy it's there. It's just the better way to go in terms of getting better writing is having two characters that are more opposite. That way you get more traction and stuff. But ultimately, if things are going well and the characters are coming out of you, or they're going to guide you how they're going to go.
Yeah. Normally, I assume you're off writing by yourself, but this one was a little bit different. I think you had some collaboration.
Normally, I'm by myself, or when I get lonely, I kind of turn to Joanne, my producer, and share things with her, or even Dylan, the editor, but mostly by myself. But this time, I turned to Daniel early on, and I knew him well enough, and we've kept in touch over the years, and I knew it would be foolish to just take like a year and write by myself. When I'm writing something for him, I have to sort of take him, and we have to sort of sit in the same room together and really work together. And he probably should have some kind of co-writing, credit, but he, no. That's okay. So the exciting part became the research, because neither one of us really knew much of anything about couture or fashion in the 50s. So that became...
You seem so couture right now. You seem like this is a natural element for you.
I'll have you know that this sweater is cashmere.
Did you like that, though, that precision in the cutting in that sequence, that question and answer sequence? Because that felt so new to me for you. And there's a kind of something I don't often think of in your films, a real kind of narrative momentum in that particular scene.
Well, let them tell the truth. I'm not going to tell the truth by, or make my own truth by kind of cutting it up a bunch of different ways. And that's just luck of the draw to get a scene that can work like that, can actually work as a suspense scene and work as this dynamic interplay. But at the same time, you're learning something about this person, this character. So these kinds of ideas of screenwriting, plot and momentum and character, and usually the worst scenes that you have to go do in a movie are the ones that will move the story forward. You got to stop for a second, and somebody has to kind of say some really horrible dialogue about, well, the reactor, will blow up if we don't have, whatever it is. The distance between making that when I was 17, which was this little script that I wrote out, it's like probably, 14 or 15 pages, and writing the script that was Boogie Nights, I was constantly writing for 9 years. I wrote like a full version that was a fictional documentary, like Zelig. It was like 80 pages or something that expanded it out. And then I wrote another draft, that was the same thing. But then I decided, well, no, I should try to turn this into a film, and I tried, and I wrote it as probably kind of close to what Boogie Nights is now. It was, in other words, an exercise to learn how to write. It was almost like I wrote
first novel.
Well, I suppose a first novel, or it was more like I wrote some story out that I thought was true, that really had happened, that was like a documentary, and then set about adapting it. But when I look back on it now, you talk about how did you practice, or I felt like I guess I just practiced for about 8 years writing that one story, trying to learn how to write, learn how to feel good about putting words together and scenes together, and shaping it so that it felt good, that I was confident and I wasn't embarrassed by looking at it on the page. I mean, that was really, isn't that so much of what writing is that you're not humiliated at looking at it? You're like,